Hello, viewers, and welcome to a new episode of your program when I talk to the camera with me, Konna Sesay. Inside the year 2021, we'll be report on a lot of disaster cases we get to do with fire disaster. We also gonna communities them way na disaster prone areas, especially communities where people know say flooding can normally take place there. Well, we don't come inside the year 2022 and we go look for know what's in the National Disaster Management Agency them plan for this year 2022. So we will listen today from the Director of Communication of the National Disaster Management Agency as they tell me what them plan for the year 2022. Hello and welcome to this interview. Mina Konna Sesay from CIA Network Press. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Mina Mohamed Elba, the Director of Communications, National Disaster Management Agency.
All right. As the Director of Communications, you will please give a brief update about the activities them of the National Disaster Management Agency will happen in 2021.
First of all, the NDMA, a new agency, government launched on the 19th of November 2019. It came into operations in 2020, and of course we spent the whole of last year trying to settle down properly as an agency, and we also focus, significantly on how we were able to populate the organogram, thereby getting staff and filling with the different directorate as prescribed by the Act, that and the NDMA Act of 2020. And see how best to go in as much we try for field, we organogram and see how we effectively also respond to disasters and way they happen across the country. And unfortunately, we are not budgeted for in 2020 because the agency be established in 2019 November. That's and they don't actually approve the budget for 2020 already. So we struggle a bit in 2021 because we are not budgeted for. That notwithstanding, we will for respond to several, disasters that will occur across the country. So far, we don't respond to 99 disasters. In the last 3 months of Freetown, we don't also take note of 33 fire incidents that will not happen. But we're not able to respond to them yet because of the enormity of work we get at the moment. But we don't able to do assessment, we're able to know the targeted population, we're able to know how many houses destroyed, and and we don't do some thorough assessment to go inform the level of response we have to do to them. But prior to that, we don't respond to 99 disasters across the country, and then 99 disasters in the affect population of around 30,000 population across the country. And we don't respond to wind disasters, like we apply more than like experience wind disasters. We say roof like in go, you experience heavy breeze, and of course in the western area we don't respond to fire incidents, then we don't do call the Wellington incident, our major highlight for we so far in our agency because of a magnitude. And we also we get minimal flooding so far because of the mitigation strategies that we don't put in place. For instance, we engage with, community volunteers and we partner with SLRA for, clear some gutters and take some very proactive mitigation steps for make sure, even in the rains, we're able to get, flooding as we used for gutter before. So now that make plenty people they see much of flooding, in recent years as opposed to what we've been seeing in the past. So we activities for the year, largely will be predicated on the fact that we have a new agency and we don't try for established structures. We get, all we directorates and how they function. As an agency, we get the Directorate of Communications, we get the Directorate of Risk Reduction and Preparedness, we get the Directorate of Relief and Response, Partnership, Finance, and all of that to make sure so we effectively function as an agency. So that is most of the things that we focus on. Also, we will try to respond to the disasters that will occur. So moving forward in 2022, the expectation are that we don't prepare with budget.
All right. We will talk about the things that we for expect from the NDMA inside 2022. But then as you dey talk about the response we una dey give to disaster places them inside 2021, before the NDMA they come into existence, we done the report on different disaster happenings around the country. So ever since una come into existence, we go look for no, is it that una existence don't mitigate some of the problem in the way people be they face, especially in disaster prone areas?
Well, I'm not going to say you don't eradicate, entirely, but we don't take critical steps then really for make sure say we mitigate most of the occurrences and this now it is clear, evident, it's visible that before now every year we know say we envisage heavy downpour, friends, and we know the kind disaster we can lead to most often in the last 2 or 3 years. We don't say that don't reduce drastically, so it all gets towards the mitigation strategies and we don't adopt as an agency. Then additionally, there are other areas. It's not really more about flooding, because then are just one type of disaster activity we can lead to disaster. But we get several other things. We get natural disasters that we will not get control over, no matter the mitigation strategy we adopt as a country. Because overseas, they get plenty know-how. They get the infrastructure, they get capacity, but still then they experience disaster. So those are natural disasters we never control over. But like what more we grapple with now are man-made disasters, so human-induced disasters, we really not a threat, and we think say an area we really need to focus on, and then now we capture mainly in the 2022 budget. Follow we make sure say, for example, we continuously make patrols, go into communities and look at areas outside people in the build houses, for example. Those are not supposed for build houses. You look at people constructing houses on wetlands beyond demarcated zones and all of the areas, and the one where they cut trees for build houses and all of that. So we get a whole pillar now we will establish with the Ministry of Lands, and they had that pillar there. Because the Ministry of Land very critical and we work what we do, because mainly we can go out there and you go see people in the building dangerous places. Some of them can actually give them license, them building permits that they were certified by the Ministry of Lands for construct houses and them places, and based on your assessment and physically you are them places, you say house not supposed for the here.
As you they say places them the way houses not supposed for the way people they claim say they get permit for building. Tell me what the places them now Freetown, to be specific, as the capital city of Sierra Leone, places one I mark as disaster prone areas.
We get plenty of areas. We get up to 40 communities. Freetown we don't mark as disaster prone areas. Of course, most of them they are slum communities, and because then a really prone, we will say prone, a different little bit that areas outside people then they go build like on top hills or underneath boulders, like them big rock. Some people they go build houses, and this now physical verification can go now feel and take pictures and draw the agencies that are responsible their attention to, and follow we take action. So we prone communities where we get like especially those are disaster really prone. We get up to 40, and what we don't do, we don't establish community volunteers. Now then areas in there. So we get volunteers in there. We can always draw your attention to activities that we inimical to the environment.
So people still they do such activities in the environment to say together when a disaster prone areas, one can sensitize them on their activities and they.
The issue about early warning and sensitization until we take very seriously. But first of all, despite the fact that you can sensitize, you can engage the public, but if you don't get enforcement mechanisms or mechanisms by which you go able to identify the illegal or inimical activities with them people they can do in them communities, it will be a challenge. So the strategy we'll devise now that we are going to have community volunteers, and we don't give them phones. Them phones then they get a free and then a CEG, a free line we use. So when then they didn't based on the locality, if any activity, for example, somebody they go dig water well, and South sign up for dig water well, you understand? Or somebody go build house, who say like in the field or community barrier, or you want to go do something, or say this, it will lead to problem. You understand? Then they draw your attention, we they go there immediately and stop them. Then I want effective means and we would only use, for make sure say we not only they wait until disaster occur, but we get systems that we don't put, we try to put in place for make sure say we tap and identify them and stop them right from the beginning for make it occur. So the agency not really focus too much on response. Like with disaster happen, like we fire incident that happen. So now we just the good and go do assessment and go respond. But we also focus more on mitigation, risk reduction activities. Now that the more make we get the structures and they in place for draw your attention, and we send all this in our office or they go in our field. And on the communication side, we get a portal now we don't develop through officer. With that portal for every officer subscriber, any message we send through our portal, everybody who use officer SIM, they receive with messages. For example, if we also partner with meteorological agency, we then get the technical know-how for tell you weather conditions. So if there's going to be heavy windstorms today and we tell you the time, so we integrate that message into snippets, small messages and send them out through that portal. So every officer subscriber go see them. We also don't pull press releases for inform the public, and of course we also don't do extensive coverages, on all the activities as an agency. All the responses, we do coverages, get pictures, and so people don't go before know. And we get contact them. We don't complete website, but we'll launch them very soon. And we go contact them with people that can reach out to on a daily basis. They report incidents them where they happen with them feel say this could lead to disaster within their communities. And even though it's challenging for we because of the enormity of course and what they get, and then the manpower, the human resource not today because until now we not really about the 24 day at this agency at the moment. So we get staff challenge, but that notwithstanding, we also don't try for make sure so we respond to most of them calls so we can inside in time.
All right. Inside the year 2021, especially the end point of 2021, we get a lot of disaster reported cases, especially fire disaster occurrence in the slum areas, and this is 2022. Tell me what the way forward. What are some plans they want to put in place for see that such not occur in the slum areas?
Well, from we assessment them, mainly we don't realize and we don't find out that most of the fire incidents occur as a result of poor electricity connection. So we don't develop messages and of course we activities and we go for them back on and for make sure say we conscientize and do community engagement and make sure say we go deep down into them communities that are conscientize and say one person for like if you want to get a meter, you never connect 500 people, for example, in 1 meter. Then it will lead to serious fire incident. It will lead to fire outbreak. Or for letting them to use quality electrical appliances or materials. Some people can go overload, then get plenty, then get freezer, then get TV, then get iron goose, then go put on power small breaker. So if the power of that particular appliance is in the outweigh the power of the breaker, definitely the burner, and if nobody knows in a house, it will lead to fire. So these are some of the things that we really get, especially in regards to fire. Well, because mainly most of them na poor electricity connection, and because then they use plenty of appliances and then the substandard materials, then can make the weight of their appliances and they can outweigh the small connections that they can do, and it can most times lead to fire. So we also have a partner with ETSA for see how best to go into the communities and conscientize them on the type of things that we need to do. That is the only strategy we are going to focus on with regards to the fire incidents. Understand? Several other things that never come. We think about having a talk show, na SLBC and AYV, who shall go for bring come people them for talk to them, people them for let understand how them for behave in the communities, and also go on the field. You understand? And because the NDMA get the power for do that based on the act. You understand? The act is very, very clear that we get the responsibility for effectively manage disaster-related matters and other emergencies in Sierra Leone. You understand? So the act give you the power, and we can even fine, and if anybody disrupts any staff of NDMA, for example, in line of in duty, we can similarly bring criminal action against you. And all of them things, and then I think we fall within the remit of the agency.
All right. When you talk about disaster, fire not the only this type of disaster where people they face in Salon, yeah. So yeah, and then you get for think about flooding and all. As you say, una they try for partner with ETSA for see how that's not able for stop all the activities and we they happen at the slum areas where they cause fire disaster. When you talk about that, and the one go wonder what of the one in a way they live very close to the water and the slum areas where they can cause flooding. What you get for do bodandi?
Well, to a very large extent, the one the way they live inside and the decision for we relocate them, for example, if that now what's in plenty people can think, not only lie with the NDMA. You understand? We get for we risk assessment, with threat analysis, and of course also submit a report. You understand? To of course we get the highest security meetings at this county then day by Keda, but we don't do that in understanding at their level, and for make sure we draw their attention. For example, if you say now you go to Kube and go relocate people because you think say you said and they're not supposed for the day, it get human rights implications. For example, these people are Sierra Leoneans, even though they don't build it illegally and they should not be there, but if you take them outside the care and go, you understand. And the people that we get the 2017 mudslide, we be involved in them, the victims them, government be built some housing for the 52 housing units, I think, na mile 6. And the challenge is that we don't get they will make plenty of people now before live there now because now the housing units them built for them, and they're not able to get toilet, they're not get market, they're not get any other thing where you for make them live as a community. And the community they far off, you understand. So it is only now that we don't reach out to the AU, we don't try for secure some funding for go make sure so we'll be for the toilet, market, and some water and some other things. And so you get to think all of them things into consideration before you think about relocation. That decision is not only going to come from NDMA, but at most from the presidency for take that decision for relocate people. So what we can normally do now for make sure so we reduce, you understand, and we increase the resilience of them communities and therefore respond in the event of disasters. So we can also engage them for make sure so we do thorough cleaning, then clean them gutters, then know how they put them waste, you understand. Quite recently we did a Moab they being the PCMH hospital, cottage hospital. It's so terrible to see, but these are people at the end of the day, and you just can't remove them from there. So what you do, engage them, the MPs and some other stakeholders, and how they go for adapt some strategies for they able to live with them and reduce the risk, And the young man they're leaking, they will provide them shovels and hose and some other things for them clean all the main gutters and water they come up the hill so they can't fall in a block. Because if you block it, you will go inside the houses. So at least if the water come, you will get passage for going to the sea. So all of them things and then the things that we do, at least for reduce them. And all of that, because the decision for permanently relocate people, because that's not the ultimate permanent solution, is not only going to come from NDMA.
All right, so finally, prior to the disaster happenings we happen inside the year 2021, waiting at the message where you left to Sierra Leoneans them out there about precautionary measures we then go put in place for protect themselves and the communities away from disaster.
I think we all get a responsibility before government they respond. Plenty of things going to happen, and the disaster we the neglect or the threats we the within the community we the neglect now for take action, or things that we do within the communities. Just so you know that if any disaster occur or any incident occur, whether a hazard we get the potential for lead to a disaster. Say if you occur, not only you but even your family members. Even the entire community will be affected. So we get a responsibility for know how they be. Let we left for build houses and aside with government say will not build. Let we left for go bank water. We get plenty catchment areas outside water be come naturally. We get swamps the way be day. People they don't go backfill and swamp then they all the build houses now. So, the ecosystem, now it's just like human being. If you suffocate them too much, they bounce. You understand? So if we say we suffocate the environment too much, the environment will go for protect we. Because we, first of all, don't fail for protect the environment. So we need to protect the environment, for the environment protect we. So that is activity we need to adapt as human beings. Then before even you come in for make sure we can instill or we can enforce some mechanisms, for make sure we're able for effectively manage the issues and the way they happen. You understand? So the responsibility first now, we as a government see the need, because all over the world climate change now thing we are very, very critical something now for every government and so on. So as a country, for sure, we commitment and seriousness towards the fight against climate change, for make sure we mitigate the effect of climate change within the countries and communities. And I make government establish this agency, when the National Disaster Management Agency, for sure to the whole world that we are serious for fight climate change. And even though we little over a year old agency, but we are very poised and committed for make sure we do everything within reach for make sure we effectively manage disasters across the country. And it's not only for Freetown, by the way. This is a national agency. We are supposed to have regional coordinators and even district disaster management committees. So we therefore going to manage them at district level. So it is not really that way disaster happen above, for example, we get for communal robo. So the organogram inside the acts of the agency is such a way that we have to have even district disaster management committees across the country. So every district will get structure, every region will get the structure. We will therefore get populate as time progresses, and we will make sure even at that level we continue for support with structures and for do sensitization, for do risk reduction and mitigation, and effectively respond to disasters, even outside disaster occur.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure.
The person we una just don't listen and watch now the Director of Communications for the National Disaster Management Agency. He don't tell we about a short update on things that we then do inside the year 2021, and also how they do for sensitize people on how for protect them communities and themselves from disaster. And he don't tell we about the plans them we then get for this year 2022. Remember, say me we bring you the program today. My name is Konna Sesay. So we meet back to a new episode of Talk to the Camera. This is Tata.